Linking with Robbie. So dude hit me in my DM, right? And I'm just like, all you niggas freak out, and that's just all it is. First off, girl, fuck him. And you are now listening to Linking with Robbie. Welcome. Bring it on in. You have now reached the trial of the century. I am not going to lie and say I'm some media or law expert. I'm not at all. But I will be covering the Diddy trial via Inner City Press on Twitter. As you may know, they don't allow cameras or recording going on in the actual courtroom, but we do have media outlets that are there covering this step by step. And I will be covering what they're covering. So it's like a coverage of a coverage. So let's get into it. Diddy do it. So what I'll be doing is I'll be reading updates from Inner City Press, which is a journalist outlet, basically media outlet on Twitter that covers all the big court cases, and they're very accurate. They're in the courtroom at the moment, and they tweet while they're there, basically giving us the rundown and the play-by-play of everything going on. So, of course, as you may know, they had jury selection, and they had to strike. How many jurors did they strike? Let's see. They struck 7 black people from the jury, and the people was in an uproar, but the prosecution, defense, and basically everyone broke down why they struck those jurors. You had one juror who hadn't seen everything on Making a Band, knew Lorianne Gibson, knew too much about Diddy. You had one person that, of course, bipolar issues, and then there was some that was struck because they believed police was assholes, and it was a lot of different various reasons as to why they had to strike these jurors, and there was valid reasons. So basically they broke down a reason for each juror that they struck, whether that would be due to criminal background or biasness, because we don't want to have any biases. When you're actually a jury in a courtroom, you want to be a neutral party. Hell, if you're on trial yourself, you want a neutral party judging you. You don't want anybody with any preconceived misconceptions or ideas about you that can taint your case. So basically during the opening statements, right? I'm gonna have to speed through this. So during the opening statements, basically prosecution, what they're doing, they're painting a picture. They're painting the picture of, how can I put this? Diddy being a manipulative, abusive, creepy old man who preys on his victims, gets them to do his bidding, and then using the sad details of the bidding as far as videos, pictures, power with his industry connections. He uses all that to get them to continue to do what he wants them to do. Have sex. Do these freak offs. That's what he wants. That's what he's focused on. Now, don't get me wrong. I do understand we all have our own private sexual activities, but the prosecution is here to let you know this is not what this case is about. This is not about a man who has little private sexual activities with his girlfriend. That's not what this is about. This is about a man imprisoning a female, controlling her life, taking her across state lines, taking her out of the country, making her have sex with countless escorts, trafficking drugs across state lines, across the country, everywhere, just so he can continue these sex parties. These were happening weekly. He was recording them and videotaping them, using it as blackmail. His security, his staff, everybody was in on it. The prosecution is going to be here to lay all that out. And as you may hear, they have testimonies from Cassie, a Jane Doe, which I'm wondering if it's Gina. I'm not sure, but it's definitely a girl he dated back in 2020. You're going to hear those testimonies. You're going to hear testimonies from the escorts, the male escorts themselves, certain staff people that he's worked for, that he has working for him. And while that's what the prosecution is going to be doing, the defense, they're going to try to paint it as he's just an older man and was he abusive? Yeah. But that's not what this case is about. It's not about abuse. It's not about domestic violence. He's not a sex trafficker. He was just a guy having a good time, and she was willingly with it. She was enjoying it. They're going to probably try to show evidence that's going to make Cassie look like she's the one coercing, or she's the one controlling the narrative. She's the one controlling everything that's going on at these freak-offs. And that's what I got from the opening statements, is that basically the prosecution is going to be basically painting their side of the story, and then the defense is going to paint, no. This is the reality. And it's up to the jury to decide between the two. Child, this was only day one. Day two came around. The floodgates of tea and mess and chaos and sadness and just too many details that almost threw me for a loop came out the woodwork. Okay. How can I say this? Day two of the trial. So day two came around, right? Girl, shit got real on day fucking two. Because guess who was the main witness? You had a male escort who was a witness who testified. And then you also had Cassie. You have Cassie testifying. Whew. So you had one escort with the last name Phillip, and you had Cassie testifying, right? Because on day one, basically, prosecution questioned the escort Phillips, right? They already questioned them, basically getting a rundown of his interaction when he had to have sex with Cassie. So on day two, it was the defense turn. Here's a little bit of what the defense did. The defense, Donaldson. While you and Miss Cassie Ventura were having sex for hours, Miss Ventura took the lead? Phillip, no. Donaldson, you took the lead? Phillip, we were equally doing our thing. There wasn't a leader. Donaldson, you decided together? Phillip, yes. Donaldson, fair to say she was in complete control of everything she was doing? Phillip again, I can't say that. Donaldson, you did not wear a condom? Phillip, I did not. Donaldson, your boss told you Miss Cassie Ventura paid for the hotel? Phillip, yes. Combs, Donaldson, she paid with her credit card? Phillip again, I have nothing to do with that. She used her card to pay for the dancer. Donaldson, okay. That assault at her apartment on 11th Avenue, Phillip, I believe it was West End Avenue. Donaldson, you claim Mr. Combs told her to come over? She said she had her personal information on the computer, so wait a minute. And he threw a bottle at her? Phillip, correct. Donaldson, he comes out and says, are you ready? Phillip, are you guys ready? Donaldson, isn't it true Mr. Combs told you, yo man, I'm going to have to deal with this. You need to get the fuck out? Phillip, that is not correct. Donaldson, in 2023, didn't you tell prosecutors he said, yo man? Then the prosecution, objection, not in evidence. Judge, sustained. You can only use it to try to refresh his recollection. Donaldson asked him to read it. So basically, what happened here was, this was an instance where Diddy hired a sex escort, a male escort, well, male stripper. He hired the male stripper to not only dance, but to have sex with Cassie. But he did it in a way that he had Cassie facilitating the setups. So it was Cassie that reached out and verbalized everything, but it was under Diddy's direction. So what the defense is going to do, they're going to paint it as if it's Cassie's direction and directive, that she's controlling all this and that the male escort is just going along with it or whatever the case may be. But what the prosecution is going to show is that she was doing it because she was supposed to do it. And if she didn't do it, he would beat her. If she would try to leave, he would go and find her and beat her. And that's when the videos from the hotel lobby hallway comes into play, because that was doing a freak off. It was doing a freak off. And apparently what happened in that freak off is she wanted to leave. She didn't want to have sex anymore. She left the hotel, tried to leave or whatever. Diddy came running down there in the towel. We all saw the video, dragged her back because he was like, "You gonna finish this freak off." Crazy work. So basically during the cross-examination, defense is trying to get a picture painted that Philip and Cassie was doing this on their own discretion. It had nothing to do with Diddy. Diddy was not controlling this. This was set up by Cassie and him. That's what they're trying to pick. So now, prosecution is talking to Philip. And with him talking to them, prosecution, they're painting a different picture. All right. So, right off the bat, prosecution asks, "Please explain why you now say Mr. Combs directed you." Philip says he asked about positions, but Mr. Combs did tell us what to do. Use baby oil. Prosecution: the timing of the handing of cash. How did the amount compare to your stripping services? Philip said, $3,800 more. Prosecution says, how much were you paid to perform when you could? Philip says $700 to $5,000 or $6,000. Prosecution: and when you couldn't perform? They paid me nothing then. Prosecution: did Miss Ventura call you after the Dream Hotel incident? Yes. Prosecution: do you know who she was with? Philip says no. Prosecution: did she ever answer your text messages? Philip: never, almost. Prosecution: you said you wanted to hug her. Why? Philip says, I could see she was afraid. Prosecution says, what did you do? Philip says, I could not engage. I was messed up. Prosecution said, what did Mr. Combs say to you? Philip says, he said it's time for you to go. In the Gramercy Hotel, as prosecution going, who was in the room? Philip says, Sean Combs, myself, and Cassie. Prosecution says, when she appeared to enjoy herself, was Sean Combs always in the room? Philip says, yes. Prosecution says, was that the same man who called her bitch and beat her? Philip says, I did not see the beating, I presume. Defense automatically, objection. Judge, sustained. Prosecution said, you heard slapping? Philip says, yes. Prosecution says, nothing further. Girl, so basically, because defense tried to basically paint it like, this is what you guys want to do under y'all discretion, Diddy's not in control of it. The prosecution turns around, says, no, defense. That's not what just happened. What took place was, Phillips can tell when they were having sex, if Diddy was in the room, that she was not a willing participant, but she was going along with it and making it the best of it to make it look like she was into it. But Philip could tell that she wasn't into it. And when she wasn't acting the way she was supposed to at any sliver of a chance, Diddy would take her into the other room and not do it in front of him. But he could hear the abuse. He knew what was going on. He knew she was being forced to have sex with him. It didn't feel right to him. And that's what prosecution is trying to show. That it may look like, to the untrained eye, that Cassie was willingly and down to participate. But that is not the case. That's not the case. She didn't want to do this. She was being forced to do this. She was being forced. And Phillips is just there to paint the picture from somebody coming from the other side. Somebody who actually is who's a part of it. Who can literally say, yeah, no, she wasn't enjoying it. After that cross-examination, this is when they called Cassie to the stand. And basically, I'm not going to read everything Cassie said. Basically, they brought Cassie to the stand so she could tell her side of the story. What took place. And basically, Cassie revealed a lot of information. She revealed how During those freak offs, she didn't want to do them. And the prosecution even presented evidence showing how there was multiple times where, it would look like she did want to do it because she would say certain things in text and emails. For some reason, I'm not sure why they communicated through emails, but through emails, she would be communicating with Diddy, basically saying like, we should do this. I want to fuck. Let's have sex, whatever like that. But what they're doing is they're already setting it up because they know the defense is going to go that route. So what prosecution is doing is showing you like, yeah, it may look like she was into it. It may look like she was doing it on her own free will, but she was doing it because she knows she has to. She was doing it so she doesn't get replaced, cut off, thrown out. It was a controlling tactic that Diddy was using, and it was working because it was keeping her right there in that box, continuing on with the facade. And with the testimony from Cassie, I hear it was a very emotional testimony because she spoke on how frequent it was. It was weekly. They spent thousands of dollars on hotel damage, on services, and with staff having to clean up what was going on. And they would have these freak offs, and she would have to take Molly, ecstasy, whatever to keep her going. She'd be up for 4 or 5 days at a time, just fucking different male escorts. She had to go and find them, but they had to meet his approval. You know what I mean? And if anybody wasn't performing the way they were supposed to, he would kick the escort out and the beating would commence. There was even a time when he stopped the session midway because there wasn't enough baby oil. I'm not sure I don't know what the baby oil is about. I hope we get to more of the nitty gritty of why he was so obsessed with having baby oil. I don't know if it's just because Cassie testified and said that they used the Astroglide lube. That was for the sexual purposes, but the baby oil was also there. I'm not sure if that was just for their bodies to be glistening. I don't know if for the videos. I'm not sure. But did he like to just sit and watch? Cassie spoke on, she spoke on a time where a male escort had to urinate on her. The escort said that Cassie asked for it, but Cassie asked for it because that's what Diddy wanted her to do. Clear as day. Most likely Diddy told her beforehand, I want somebody to urinate on you. And so she had to be the one to proposition this. He was very clever with how he did things. He didn't want to be the person asking for stuff, so he would have Cassie do it. But you could tell, a nigga could tell from sitting in the room with two couples, you can tell who's really running the show. I've done plenty of sets with a couple, and I can tell what's really going on, right? So anyway, needless to say, the escort urinates on her. In her mouth, she begins to choke. And then, instead of the session ending, because she's choking and she's clearly not enjoying it, but she's trying to fake it, Diddy comes over and does the same thing. Urinates on her. So now they're both using her like a urinal or some shit. It's insane. She spoke on how she had to do freak offs when she was on her period. She spoke on how there wasn't protection being used. And she broke down crying in tears just thinking about how she was in that place for so many years. And whenever she would try to leave, he would find her. And then she would get scared of leaving because she would be like, he would just find someone else and replace me. He met her when she was 19, you guys. So she was very impressionable. She thought she was going to have a career. She thought she was going to have a music career. She thought she was going to have a life of something else. He offered a relationship. She didn't have that. She became like a sex toy, a sex slave per se. Allegedly. I mean, really, that's what it was. And she didn't like it. She didn't like it. So she basically testified that she spoke on basically a time where a male escort ejaculated on her, and Diddy called her to the other room so that she can rub the nut, rub that nut from the dude on his nipples and on his chest because that turned him on, I guess. And that was just a common practice of what they did. And not to judge anybody, But it makes you look at this a little bit deeper, because it's like you start realizing what the prosecution is showing is that all these things he had Cassie doing was for his pleasure. And he had a sick way of going about it because he didn't feel comfortable pursuing that in his own. I do think the prosecution is going to lean down a path of he may be a little bit bisexual or fluid with his sexuality, whatever the case may be. They're going to go down that path because there's something about the men escorts. It does lend to something different. Wanting your wife to get, or your girlfriend to be fucked in front of you, that's one thing. Wanting the dude to nut on her and piss on her and you join in, and you want that nut also on you, but you don't want the guy himself to do it on you. It's telling. It shows that you do want some type of interaction with the guy, but it's a power thing. You have to let both of them know you're running the show. So instead of you getting nutted on, you want her to be nutted on because she's your property. And then you want her to come and be submissive to you and rub that same said nut that she got, because it wasn't for her. The nut wasn't for her. It was for you. You see what I mean? He did that so it could end up on him. It is insane. And that was just day 2. I was sitting there like my mouth on the floor agape, because I'm like, day 1, we had the opening statements. We heard a little bit from an escort. We were like, okay, this is the direction we going. All right, cool, whoa. And then day 2, it's like, oh, we dropping more tea. Apparently, the testimony for Cassie is going to continue tomorrow because they had to break for the rest of the day. I am flabbergasted, and I can't wait to continue to cover this, because I will continue to cover this, because every day I'm going to do some coverage. I just had to do the first 2 days because I was a little bit behind, but I've been paying attention. But with these first 2 days, I can always see what both directions the prosecution and defense is going. Defense is going to basically try to narrow in on Cassie. I know when they do their cross-examination on Cassie, they're going to try to eat her up, which is why prosecution is already trying to hit these certain points. Prosecution is always talking about, they're already pulling up evidence in emails where she was asking for the sex with Diddy. She was asking to be a part of this. She was asking to do things. And they already showed basically where she was initiating the setup. She was initiating the, facilitating the payments or whatever the case may be. But we're going to most likely see from prosecution down the road where it ties back to Diddy controlling it. We're going to see. You're going to see it all, and it's going to all unfold. And I am ready, because this is the trial of the century. And this man was sick as fuck. And I'm ready for it all be exposed. What has he been doing for the last 20 years? We need to find out. Because I'm tired of hearing rumors about it. I've been hearing about bad boy since I was a baby boy. And I'm ready to find out the truth. I'm ready to see the evidence. Hell, apparently during these 2 days, they were already showing videos from the freak offs. Mind you, Diddy's family is there. His kids. It's chaos down here, Tom. And I am overstimulated, but we're relieved we're finally getting this done. We're finally talking about it. So tune in. I'll be back tomorrow with some more tea. As you may know, live with Linkin with Robbie.